Hey everyone, I'm Lily, and welcome to part 3 of my Guilds of Ravnica set review. This is my third part, and if you want to learn more about how I'm doing the set review, I'd recommend going back and watching the first part. It should be around here somewhere. I don't know. But in short, I'm reviewing these cards for limited, primarily draft, but also sealed, because pre-release is coming up, and I'm trying to get all these out before pre-release. So yeah, today we're talking about the green cards and the lands. So, I just do this because I don't want to like mix like green and like a guild, because then it's like awkward and stuff, and I mixed the last guild with like the artifacts and stuff, and green and lands fits well together because one thing that's important here is what fixing does this set have? Because if, like guilds, they said that they designed these sets to support like one player of like each, like heavily in each guild at a pod of 8, and then like 3 or so players of like going tricolor. And we're gonna see like what level of fixing is there in the set for us to do. So yeah, and they'll be important, and they're tangentially linked, and also green cards are the best cards, and land cards usually have the best art, so that's cool. Alright. Oops. Starting up, we have Biogenic Beast, which is a 4-mana 3/4. It's a 4-mana 3/4. I'm not huge on this. If you need to fill out your curve and you need some 4-drops, which usually decks don't have trouble picking up 4-drops, it's fine, but you don't want to be running this card if you can. It's just not, the power level isn't there. Biogenic Ooze, which is 3 green for a 2/2, and when it enters the battlefield, create a 2/2 green ooze creature token. At the beginning of your end step, put a +1/+1 counter on each ooze you control, and it itself is an ooze. So, and you can pay 1 green to create a 2/2 ooze creature token. So, it enters the battlefield with 4 power, which goes to 6 power. So it's 6 power for 5 mana, assuming they don't remove it immediately. And it's really something they have to remove immediately. And that goes every turn. It's a sink for if you want to put more, if you have more mana into it. Essentially, it's going to be very much a situation where, like, if they play this and the turn cycle goes around and it comes back to you and you untap this thing, you're in a very good spot. And if they don't remove it a turn again, the game is running away, because you're making an ooze every turn, all those oozes are getting bigger every turn, and it's just an engine which keeps going and going and going. Especially once you hit 8 mana, you're making 2 oozes a turn and things like that. So yeah, Biogenic Ooze is like, it's a mythic, but it's also a very good mythic for limited. So yeah. Biogenic Ooze. Oozes are good. Biogenic Upgrade, which is a 6-mana sorcery. Distribute 3 +1/+1 counters among 1, 2, or 3 creatures, and then double the number of +1/+1 counters on each of those creatures. So it's 6 mana, and if none of those creatures have +1/+1 counters on them, you get 6 power and toughness on top of this. And since it doesn't also come with a body, like 6 mana for 6 power and toughness is like great. But the fact that it doesn't come with a body puts it down for me a bit. But if you're in the Simic deck, and also the Gruul deck also cares about this because they have Riot and that gives them +1/+1 counters, but if you have enough ways to give your creatures +1/+1 counters, I could definitely see this being a bit more of a bit more real of a card, because once you like are getting 8 power or and above off of this, like if you had like 2 creatures with counters on them, then it starts getting very nice. But you do need that infrastructure to begin with. If I wasn't super heavy, like if I was like, I mean, Simic deck will be hard to not have those counter synergies, but you also want to have cheap adapt creatures, is the main thing too. It's like you don't want to be counting your like 6 and 7 mana adapt creatures as creatures with counters on them. It being sorcery speed also does hurt it, so I think it'd be a fine like top-end finisher for like a Simic deck, but it does require a little bit of setup to be good. That said, at the very, its bottom level, 6 extra power on the board does do a lot, and can just end games if you just dump 6 power onto a flyer that you have. Next up we have Enraged Forerunners, which is 5 green, so 8 mana, for a 7/7 with Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. And when it enters battlefield, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain Vigilance and Trample until end of turn. It's a little Craterhoof Behemoth, and it's a little Craterhoof Behemoth, but it's still a solid card. That said, 8 mana is a lot, and I would want to have a few sources of ramp before, like, I'm just jamming this in there. But, it is a reason to go out of your way to get some of that ramp, because it's a very, very good creature. And, like, even without other creatures, a 7/7 Vigilant Trample Haste for 8 isn't bad. And the fact that it's just a real good creature. Like, even bad Craterhoofs are pretty good. Next we have Enraged Ceratok, which is 2 green for 4/4 that cannot be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. Vanilla 4/4s for 4 generally are one of the best vanilla creatures, and this one just is a vanilla, like a 4/4 for 4 with evasion, and that makes me really like this card. Like, this is honestly just a real solid 4-drop that you're just happy to run. It's like nothing, it's not exciting, but it gets the job done. We got Gatebreaker Ram, which is 2 green for a 2/2. It gets +1/+1 for each gate you control. As long as you control 2 or more gates, it has Vigilance and Trample. So, if you have no gates, it's bad. If you have 1 gate, you already have a 3/3 for 3, and having 1 gate is not a tall order for most decks. And anything beyond that makes this just really sweet. And this is another one of those really good payoffs for the gate deck. Like in guilds, like, the gate deck was kinda there, but it didn't have that much stuff going for it. Like, it had Glaive of the Guild Pact. That's about it. But Gatebreaker Ram is a real solid payoff, and also just not one that, like, is the super in-gamey thing that, like, deals with, like, it's just a solid 3-drop creature that gets really good, it scales well with the game, and yeah, no, it's just real good. But even then, I think it'll be hard to pick up for that gate deck, if you're, like, in that gate deck, just because it's almost good in any deck that has picked up 1 to 2 gates. I mean, I wouldn't run this with 1 gate, but if I have 2 or more gates in my deck, I would run this card. Gift of Strength. It's 1 green for instant. Target creature gets +3/+3 and gains reach until end of turn. It's a little bit more expensive giant growth. That reach is relevant because, like I said, like, especially in the earlier sets, like, there are a lot of flyers in this set and a lot of problematic flyers, and I wouldn't run more than 1 to 2 of these. Like, it is still a combat trick, but I mean, those are good stats even if it's a 2-mana combat trick. And maybe it goes up a little bit in value if you're playing against, like, Azorius or Orzhov. Growth Chamber Guardian, which is 1 green for 2/2, with Adapt 2 for 2 and a green. So it's a 2/2, and then you can turn next turn if you just want to spend your mana, it can become a 4/4 and swing, which is solid. And whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on him, you may search your library for a card named Growth Chamber Guardian, reveal it, and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. This is a rare, so unlimited, that second line of text is pretty much irrelevant. That said, I mean, it's a solid bear. Like, a bear that comes with 4/4 isn't bad. Like 2/2 for 2s, like vanilla 2/2 for 2s, like, on curve, they're actually quite nice. They're actually not bad cards. But the problem with them is that they become so much worse very quickly. And you need, like, the thing that makes a 2/2, 2 for 2 good, like a good card from being like just a passable curve filler, is this useful later in the game? And 2/2s are rarely that useful late game, but this is a 2/2 that you could slam it down and adapt at the same turn, and all of a sudden you're dealing with a 4/4. And you know what, that I'm more interested, that is a real creature that will be relevant pretty much the entire board. So, yeah. Great Chamber Guardian, not good for its fancy parts, but just good as a general good card. Okay, Gruul Beastmaster, which is a 4-mana 2/2 of Riot. So kind of evaluated as a 4-mana 3/3 with a little bit of upside, because with the utility, if you want it to run with haste. And whenever it attacks, another target creature you control gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is Gruul Beastmaster's power. Okay, so it's a 3-mana 4/4, not a huge one, but it's 3-mana 4/4 that also can give another creature +3/+0, which is actually, I'm starting to, like, I don't mind that. Like, that's a solid beater. And, especially if you have any sort of, like, Simic evasion or anything. And, the fact that, like, sometimes you just need to, like, push in some damage and all of a sudden, like, this can add 4 damage onto the board with haste, I don't mind. So, yeah. I don't think it's a great 4-drop, but I think it's a solid one. Like, I think Riot is just the flexibility of Riot. Even these, like, less exciting creatures and less like, impressively statted creatures makes me still like it a bit more, because I think Riot is very powerful. Guardian Project, which is a 4-mana enchantment, and whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, if it does not have the same name as another card in your creature you control, or a creature card in your graveyard, draw a card. So, as long as you have like a bunch of unique creatures, it essentially cantrips all of your creatures. And, you know, I actually quite like this. Like, it's 4 mana, it doesn't affect the board state, but, I wouldn't necessarily, like, for just kind of like that inevitability is real nice. Like, it does kind of change how you build your deck. Like, in Limited, it is possible to get, like, 3 or more of, like, a single type of creature. And if I had this in my deck, I would be less likely, unless it was, like, a really good creature, I might put in some slightly worse ones, get that diversity in there, but usually getting the creature diversity is not difficult in Limited. And, you just need to play one creature after this, and you've paid for the card. And anything after that is just real nice. And, like, I believe that this format, with the exception, like, Gruul is definitely, like, aggro in this format, but it's not like Boros levels of aggro, where it's, like, you need to be doing things, like, to stop Boros at every single turn. Where you can't, I think you could, based on my preliminary analysis, and I think I could be completely wrong about this, but for an enchantment like this, I think you believe you could take 4 mana off, just because of the extreme late game inevitability it brings. So, yeah. We have Incubation Druid, which is a 2-mana 0/2. You can tap her to add 1 mana of any type of a land you could control or produce. And it's not great, because I wish you could tap for any mana, but oh well. But if it has a +1 counter on it, add 3 mana of that type instead. So, and it also has for 5, it has an adapt 3. So it's 2-mana 0/2 mana dork, which, I mean, I like my mana dorks to be a little bit beefier, but I don't mind 3-mana, 2-mana, like, mana dorks like this. Like, it's no Druid of the Cowl at that point, but it's fine. But then it having the adapt 3, that, like, late game, like, in many ways it's also, like, the cost is 4, because it, like, it can pay for itself too, where it then becomes a 3/5 that also can tap for a lot if you want to pay for, like, more expensive adapt creatures and things like that. Yeah, I think this is real solid. Like, I like my mana dorks, I like my elves, and this seems like just a solid mana dork. And the fact that it also can just turn into a threat late game makes it real nice. Next we got Mammoth Spider, a reprint from Dominaria, which is a 5-mana 3/5 of reach. And I think this card will be an all-star in this format. Like, with between spirit tokens, the number of, like, Azorius flyers and Orzhov flyers and all this other stuff, a 3/5 of reach does a lot in this format. Also, just a 3/5 of reach, even just without, like, it blocks a lot of the ground stuff too. This thing is just going to be really good at gumming up the board and waiting for either your big Gruul stuff that, like, just, like, causes their things to be unable to block, or your Simic stuff with evasion, or just comes too big to deal with. And Mammoth Spider is just a real solid powerhouse, I think, will be in this format. It's unexciting. It's not super, you don't see Mammoth Spider and you're like, ooh, so exciting, new, cool. But it's very good. You have Open the Gates, which is 1 green for a sorcery. Search your library for a basic land card or gate card, reveal it, and put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library. I think this card is very, very good. Like, especially for 3-color, but even if you're 2-color, like, you want your mana to be the best you can be, and just 1 mana, it's cheap, it helps fix your mana, it helps smooth out all those problems and stuff, and I just think this is a very high choice piece. So yeah, no, I don't have much to say on it. I just think it'll be very good in that sort of fixing. Like fixing's important in Ravnica sets, because it's like it's very intense on mana and on mana cost in your cards, and not having color mana really means game over. So I like Open the Gates a lot. We got Rampage of the Clans, which is 3 and a green for a instant. Destroy all artifacts and enchantments. For each permanent destroyed this way, its controller creates a 3/3 green centaur creature token. This card does not have its place in Limited. In Limited, creatures rule the day. And sure, there might be a troublesome enchantment or artifact that you have to deal with. But Rampage of the Clans is not the way to deal with it. Most of the things that in the set are artifacts or things, like a 3/3 is going to be better than that. And you don't want to be also playing the game of, oh, I'm going to blow up my own stuff to give myself an army of 3/3 centaurs. It's not good for Limited. Like, maybe sideboard, like if you have to deal with something. But otherwise, I would not run Rampage of the Clans. Alright, we have Rampaging Ring, which is a 5-mana 4/4 of Riot. So it's a 5-mana 5/5, which I'm fine with, I'm not excited by. But the fact that sometimes it can just be a 4/4 of haste makes me actually quite like that. Like, again, it's not an exciting Riot creature, but Riot, I think, is just an extremely powerful mechanic. And it's just gonna be a real nice beater. Like, 4 damage out of nowhere is real nice. And sometimes if you can't attack, oh look, now I have a 5/5 instead, which is also real nice. Next up we have Regenesis, which is 3 green. And for an instant, return up to 2 target permanent cards from your graveyard to your hand. I think the easiest thing to compare this to is a lot of the black cards, which are usually like 3 mana, return 2 creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. I do not want to pay 5 mana for this effect. 5 mana is just way too expensive. That even at instant speed, I don't want to be paying 5 mana for this effect. I am not high on Regenesis. It's just too much. Root Snare, which is 1 and a green for an instant, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. Do not play Fogs Unlimited. Don't do it. Don't play this card. Just don't. No. Coming up with a situation where you might want to run this Unlimited, ignore it. You shouldn't. You should not run Root Snare. Sagitar Sovaldi, which is 2 and a green for an instant. Destroy target creature with flying. It deals 1 damage to each creature with flying your opponent's control. I think this is easily mainboardable. I keep talking about the number of troublesome flyers there are, and the fact that this both kills a flyer and just nukes all of their spirits at the same time for Afterlife or anything. And at common, it's just real good value. Like, obviously, if you end up, I'd run, 1 main board, and if you end up with Griffins like Gruul, you can sideboard it out. You sideboard it out, but yeah, no, Sagitar's Folly is just real good and real solid, and I think a pretty high priority, and it just decimates the Orzhov decks. Yeah. Next we have Saruli Caretaker, which is 1 green for an 0/3 with Defender. You may tap her and tap an untapped creature you control to add 1 mana of any color. So you have to tap her and another creature you control. I'm not huge on this, like, yeah, it is ramp and isn't, but it's like, it's no Llanowar Elves, and it is fixing. Like, I would say, like, if you're in this, like, 3-color deck and you need that fixing, I could see running this, but if you're running just for ramp, I don't really want to be using this. So, I'm sorry, Celestia friend, you're beautiful art, it's amazing art. Howard Lamb, he posted, like, a time-lapse of him doing this painting on the YouTube channel. It looks amazing. You should definitely check it out. I won't link it, because I'll forget. But yeah, no, I just don't think it's just a really big cost for just adding 1 mana of any color, and yeah. Next up we have the most disappointing card in the set, which is Sorrowform Hybrid. It's disappointing because it's not human dinosaur. It's Sorrowform. This is the perfect chance to have a human dinosaur, and you blew it. But it's a 2-mana 2/2. For 6 mana, it can have a tapped 4. So it's a 2-mana 2/2 that later becomes a 6/6. It even becomes a Colossal Dreadmaw, like minus trample. Like, this would have been perfect. Like, 2-mana 2/2 that also becomes a 6/6 with trample human dinosaur. It would have been rad. But no. But I think this is real solid as a 2-drop. Like what I was saying before, where it's like 2-drops need to have that late game punch to be like a good 2-drop, two good bears instead of just bears. And honestly, this has that like late game potential, and yeah, I quite like it. We have Solana Wayfinder, which is 2 mana for 2/1, and when it enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature or land card from among them and put it on top of your library, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So it's a piker, which I'm not huge on, and it doesn't draw cards. It's not an Elvish Visionary, but it does offer very good card selection and helps smooth out your draws, which makes me actually quite like this card. Like, again, it's a 2-drop that is useful at all stages of the game. It helps you dig, it helps you find what you need, and things like that. And like early game, it's like, okay, are you flooded on lands? Okay, I'll find a good, like, I'll shuffle some lands at the bottom and find a creature to like curve into, or I'm stuck on lands, I have a risky keep, but I can play this and try to find a land, and usually I'll find a land, and yeah, I like Solana Wayfinder quite a bit. We have Steeple Creeper, which is a 3-mana 4/2, which I'm not huge on 3-mana 4/2s, but for 3 and a blue, you can have it gain flying until end of turn. I mean, if you're in Simic, I think this is solid. If you're, it's a fine 3-drop. It's not an amazing 3-drop, but it's a fine 3-drop. If you're not in Simic, I would not run this. It's just not good. Like, there is a little bit of that kind of like, caring about creatures with power 4 and greater and like the Gruul stuff, but unless you have like a lot of those you want to have, but even then you're better off with like better creatures than this. So, I'm not a huge on Steeple Creeper. We have Stony Strength, which is 1 green for an instant. Put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Untap that creature. I don't like this as a combat trick. It just doesn't do enough. Also the fact that it's like, it is kind of a nombo with it, with evolve creatures, and yeah, it just doesn't do enough. Sylvan Bushwriter, which is a 3-mana 3/2, and when it enters battlefield, you gain 2 life. I mean, 3-mana 3/2s are a little bit below rate, but I mean, gain 2 life is, on ATB isn't bad, and I mean, if you need 3-drops, you could do worse. I mean, when it comes to boring 3-drops, this is not a bad one. Territorial Bore. It is a 2-mana 2/2, and whenever a power creature of power 4 or greater enters battlefield under your control, it gains +1/+1 in Vigilance until end of turn. Okay, if we're talking about like the 2/2s for 2, the bears that we've talked about, this is probably my least favorite of the green bears. Just because it's like, I mean, usually it'll be turn 4 by the time you're off and dropping the 4-drop creatures. One thing you should note is that right, it happens as it enters the battlefield. So if say it's like a 3-power creature with Riot and it enters the battlefield with a counter, it does count as entering as a 4-drop creature, a 4-power creature. Just an important note. Yeah, I mean, getting +1/+1 on Vigilance isn't nothing, but it isn't that like late game threat on its own. So, yeah. We have Titanic Brawl, which is 1 and a green for an instant. It costs 1 less if it targets a creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. Target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. Yeah, I mean, it's a bounce that is sometimes cheaper bounce, and that's just upside, and usually bounce is good, and a lot of both the Gruul and Simic stuff is going to be big, so yeah, I think it's going to be your go-to green removal, and here it is. It'll be good. Also, like a lot of the other guilds, like, their stuff isn't actually that impressive in size, so like having your stuff, like a lot of the Gruul and Simic stuff, they're just gonna eat the stuff. Tower Defense, which is 1 and a green for an instant. Creatures you control get +0/+5 and gain reach until end of turn. Like, I could see this being kind of like, oh, there's this like blowout because I attacked with everyone, and then they all get +0/+5, and we won a bunch of combats that would have been trades and stuff, but I want my combat tricks to help me win combats, like not, I want to turn losses into wins, not trades into wins, or losses into, oh, I just survived, and like bounced off each other. Yeah, so I'm just not big on tower defense at all. Trollbred Guardian, which is a 5-mana 5/5 with 3 mana, 2 and a green for Adapt 2. So it can start swinging in next turn, like for not even all your mana, as a 7/7. And each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it, it has Trample. So it's a 5/5 mana for 5/5, which is fine with. That then can, unless you have a more important 6-drop to play, turns into a 7/7 Trample. Yeah, no, that's really good. And the fact that it then gives all of your other creatures with +1/+1 counters also have Trample. Yeah, Trollbred Guardian is just a real solid green and great Simic payoff, but also not a bad Gruul payoff because all the Gruul stuff right, they get counters, so yeah. Wilderness Reclamation, which is 3 and a green for an enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. Grey Garden Commander, stone useless and limited. Like, yes, there are situations where it might be useful, but unless you happen to have a bunch of like really good mana sinks and stuff in your deck, like, you're not running this. It's just, it doesn't help. Don't run this. It's a 4-mana enchantment that does not affect the board state. It's not a format with lots of mana sinks. Like, there's lots of one-time mana sinks, but you're not... No, just don't run this. Then we have Wrecking Beast, which is a 7-mana 6/6 with Trample and Riot. So it's a 7/7 Trample, which for 7, which I actually quite like. Or sometimes it's a 6/6 Trample with Haste, which I really like. Yeah, no, Wrecking Beast is a real great top finisher for honestly any green deck. It's just, sometimes you just want a hasty Colossal Dreadmaw. Okay, and now we're moving into the lands. So, we have the Guild Gates, which, I mean, there's not much to say about them. Like, you'll pick them up, especially if you're in that Gates deck. You might pick off, like, off-color Guild Gates if you're, like, trying to make that Gates deck, like, push it really hard. But, obviously, you, like I said in the Guilds video, you definitely want to pick these up actually fairly high priority, even if you're just 2-color. Like, it's honestly, Guild Gates are usually better than a mediocre common a lot of the time. And, yeah, no, I quite like Guild Gates. Even off-color Guild Gates, to just have them to speculate on future packs if you open, like, a gold card you want to pick up. So, Same thing with the Shah clans, except these don't have the gate synergies, but they have the synergy of they are worth money. So, I mean, I know me, and I'll usually just end up taking shocks if I open one of my packs, because I'm greedy like that. And also, like, most of them, like, will at least pay for, like, half the draft on their own, so... But yeah, there's not much to say about that. Gateway Plaza's back, which is kind of like the Rupture Spires. That's also a gate. When enters battlefield tapped, and you have to pay 1, or otherwise you have to sacrifice it, but then it taps for anything. And it was okay in guilds, and I think it'll be a little bit better in this set, because this set I feel is a bit slower, and you can spend more time like taking turns off to do things like this. And you know, it isn't bad fixing in that case, so. More Shocklands, more Guild Gates. I love the look of the Guild Gates in this set. Hollowed Fountain, Orzhov Guild Gate, Plaza of Harmony. When it enters battlefield, if you control 2 or more gates, you gain 3 life. And you can tap to add colorless, or you can tap to add 1 mana of any type that a gate you control could produce. So, honestly, I would run this if I have... Like, this is actually real solid. If you have, like, 3 or more gates, it's fine. It's, like, actually becomes a quite nice card. And if you have anything more than that, it's even better. And, yeah, I quite like Plaza of Harmony. Quite a bit. Yeah. Rakdos Guild Gate, Rakdos Guild Gate. Simic Guild. I love the Simic Guild Gates. They're so nice and so pretty. And Stomping Ground, and that is it for this part of the set review. So, next episode, we're going to be getting into the actual guilds. I believe first up is Azorius and Orzhov. So, yeah. Let me know if you, like, disagree with any of my assessments of these. Like, I want to get better at the set too. Like, and, yeah. I'm excited for it. I'm really excited for the set, honestly, for Commander. But I'm also excited to play Limited and stuff too, so, yeah. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a wonderful night. Man, may your story smile upon you.